the big title belt that you are more noticeably about in today is certainly the Ring of Honor World Championship. And just one of the first shows that I ever went to, a part of Ring of Honor, was back in April of 2007 when you didn't have the belt. You, along with Dave Williams, took on Chris Hero and the man you were chasing at the time for the Ring of Honor World Championship in Takeshi Morishima. Now, you won that belt at Undeniable, of course, on October 6th of that year in 2007. What did that one singular moment in your career really mean, as you pretty much captured your dream in front of all your co-workers and fans on that night?
I mean, in hindsight, it means everything, you know. I remember when I started out in Ring of Honor, and I was just happy to have a spot on the show, to be honest with you. I'd be in the first or second match, and I'd sit there and watch the rest of the show, and I'd see guys like Dragon and Joe and AJ and Chris Daniels and Loki and Homicide go out there in the main event and just be in awe of them, you know, just be in awe of their abilities. Yeah. And it never once crossed my mind that I'd be at that stage. And just to be honest with you, I just wanted to, you know, be as good as I can and you know, make some money at it. But then as time went on and I moved further and further up the ranks and, you know, paid my dues, and, you know, I had the pure title for a good length of time as well, and, you know, I like to think I did pretty well with that belt. And then, so when it finally happened and I got the actual world title, it was everything. I think that night it didn't really settle in because that was a hell of a chase.
Yeah.
I mean, the injuries that I've sustained since I've been champion really are due in no small part to the chase of trying to get the belt in the first place. Those matches with Morishima, I mean, they were every bit as physically demanding as they looked. You know, I mean, I wore my body out in that sort of that 6 to 8 month period. I was just, you know, became called McLariat because I was hitting so many of them and just you know, throwing balls to the wall every time I went out there, and you can only do that so long before it catches up with you. And catch up it did, and you know, I've just been very sort of lucky on occasion to keep the belt around my waist.
Exactly. And speaking of Morishima, the last Ring of Honor actually event that I did attend was Final Battle back in December of 2008, where pretty much you saw a knockdown, drag-out, bloody brawl between both Morishima and Danielson there on the main event of the card. But really, just looking at the type of performer and the athlete that pretty much Bryan Danielson is, how difficult is it for you to really train and prepare to face a guy of that magnitude, really compared to some of your past challengers in the likes of Aries or Tyler Black or even Claudio Castagnoli?
Dragon's very different. He's kind of a guy that stands on his own in Ring of Honor, just purely because of his longevity there and how he is really the Babe Ruth of the company. But, you know, sometimes I live close to the beach and I go down and I, you know, dig up some clams and I'm just kidding. No, to be honest with you, I don't train any differently for Dragon, although he is a very different wrestler, a very different style. I think you've got to go in with your own sort of game plan every time, and people will adapt to that as opposed to training differently for different guys, you know, because everyone, you know, you talk about Aries, there's a guy that, you know, it's just always been a guy that can bring it. I mean, I think that he's tremendously underrated. He's probably one of the best wrestlers I've ever been in there. He's just got a tremendous mind for the business and a great passion as well.
Certainly the upcoming pay-per-view that Ring of Honor will be showcasing is Rising Above. And last year at this event, you defeated Austin Aries narrowly as you had a few stitches thanks to that really missile strike from Aries to the outside at last year's event inside Manhattan. And really, I mean, facing off against Bryan Danielson and really the catchphrase of being best in the world being on the line in that event. Do you think it was almost like a symbolic passing of the torch, per se, with Danielson handing it over now to you?
I'm not sure you can say. I think a lot of, you know, with issues like that, you can only really tell in the future with hindsight, like I said, looking back. You know, I think Dragon will always have that spot as the top guy in Ring of Honor, just because of his longevity there and his track record. You know, he didn't hold the title as long as Joe, and, you know, he didn't hold the title as long as me. But you just can't touch his record in terms of just the quality of matches that he's had. As much as I hate to admit that, you know, to clubfoot, clam-digging,
Definitely.
beastie-faced Washingtonite. But yeah, so yeah, absolutely.
One of the big changes, though, that was noticeable, I think, in Ring of Honor this past year was, of course, really Kerry Silkin, the owner of Ring of Honor, letting go Gabe Sapolsky, the booker at the time, in exchange for current wrestler and now booker Adam Pearce. Now, to me, the shows per se haven't changed all that drastically up until the point where you look at guys like Grizzly Redwood, Rhett Titus, and Ernie Osiris now actually getting a chance to prove themselves at the Ring of Honor shows. But what were your thoughts running through your mind when you heard that Gabe was fired?
Well, obviously, my first one was disappointment. Gabe's not only a great booker. I mean, obviously, I'm going to say that I'm a champion. But he was also a great guy. He really did care passionately about the business, and the business to him was Ring of Honor. He gave night and day. He gave for that company as everybody did. So at first I was disappointed. Yeah, and still am. It's unfortunate to see a guy that really helped build the career. Build the company, so to speak, not be a part of it anymore. But Adam's a guy who's been around for a long time, has had a ton of experience wrestling all over the world, and I think a lot of people in the wrestling business weren't aware of just how experienced he was and what a great mind he has, And,
yeah.
And as you touched on, when you talk there, it's we're not going to go out there and try and what's the word?
I think
if it's not broken, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Broken, So we're not going to go out there and drastically change things. You talk about the younger guys coming up. I think that was something that would have happened anyway. To be honest with you, Rhett was already getting somewhat of a push, and the other guys, it's just one of those things that comes in time, and I'm sure Gabe would have pushed them as well. Whatever happened to change that, to force that change, was kind of behind the scenes, and it was kind of a professional issue.
Gotcha.
And it was what it was, so to speak. And now everyone's trying to move forward and be positive. And to be perfectly honest with you, everyone seems to be real gung ho and excited about the future with this movie coming out and everything else.
Yeah, definitely. And now you mentioned guys like Samoa Joe, AJ Styles, Homicide, and Low-Ki, just to name a few. Actually, Low-Ki, to the best of my knowledge, was just offered a WWE contract and signed with them. But your contract is due to come up this year, 2009. Would there be a possibility that you'd stay with Ring of Honor if Kerry Silkin decided to give you like a substantial paycheck? Or if given the chance that was presented to you, would you accept an offer that came from the WWE or TNA if they wanted to use you as kind of like a regular on their broadcasts?
Well, I think as a professional in the industry, you can't never say never about any possibility, any offer and stuff like that. I will say that Ring of Honor has been nothing but kind and loyal and very generous. The way it took care of me when I was injured and everything else. And I've always been very happy here. It is a great family of people, and it's great to be part of. With that aside, at the end of the day, it does come back down to the fact that one day in your life you're not going to be able to wrestle anymore, and hopefully you won't have to go back to working a 9-to-5 job when you're sort of crippled from all the injuries and stuff like that. Now I'd love to stay in Ring of Honor. I think everybody here would. Everyone's passionate about the company, and we all feel as though we've contributed to be where it is. And we have everybody from the guys that set up the ring to the guys who are at the top of the card. And that's a cliche, I know, but everybody has busted their ass and struggled and sacrificed to make the company a success. And I think we all want to continue to see that go on, and we all hope that things move on to the extent to where we can make a pretty decent living at it, and so that would definitely be an option, if that came along. And like I said, you can never say never in the wrestling business, and if good options come along elsewhere, then obviously I have to bear those in mind. So we're still a while out from that date, so we'll just have to see what happens going forward.